All right. Well, it's 6 p.m. and I am here with Steve Ferreira, my guest. Welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. I'm Helena Escalante, the entrepreneur in residence at the New York Public Library's Business Center. And today we're having a fantastic webinar. Steve is the CEO and founder of Ocean Audit, a company that has been enormously successful. But one of the biggest merits is that Steve has been a solo practitioner ever since the company started. And he has managed to grow it to almost $2 million in revenue. So because of that, he has been featured in Forbes and many other media. And we are lucky today to have him come and tell us how it is that he has managed to do this. But not only that, but during the pandemic, he has managed to make his company not just survive, but thrive using two marketing methods that are very simple and that you too can use to grow and get your business to meet your goals. So please help me welcome Steve Ferreira. Welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's such a great privilege and honor. I can't thank you enough. And I'm so excited to present to the world of business and New Yorkers out there that are all looking to prosper and survive post-COVID. So should be a great show tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And as you say that, we're definitely surrounded by some wonderful New Yorkers, but also there may be some people here from other places. So tell us in the chat where you're coming in from. We'd love to say hello. So Mari says, hi guys, hi. Denise says hello and thank you. Where's everybody else coming in from? We want to know. New York City, Harlem,
Right.
awesome. All right, New York City, Betsy,
Hey,
Utah.
Denise.
Hey,
All right.
Josh, good to see you from Utah. From the Upper East Side, Denise from Staten Island, Indra, Leonore from New York City, Morningside Heights. Hi, Sonia.
Hey, Sonia.
Tammy Clayton, thank you for presenting, Steve. From Harlem is David coming in. Hi, David. Oh, hey, Brian, good to see you from Stanford. All right, Long Island City. All the way from Brooklyn. Hi, Wei. How are you? Anyway, wonderful to have all of you here. But Steve, where are you coming in from? From Connecticut, right?
That's right. That's right. We're in Hartford, Connecticut. We moved here a few years ago.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it's great to be
Fantastic.
here.
But you do business all over the world. So please tell us a little bit about your business and take it away. The stage is all yours.
Oh, sure. So it's okay to proceed. We can start the program.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, great. Well, it's just an honor to be here. As I mentioned, I'm Steve Ferreira. And as Helena mentioned, I founded Ocean Audit some 20 plus years ago. I'm actually a two-time entrepreneur, fortunate to have sold my first company. Wasn't so fortunate though after I sold the company to become a pro golfer though. So that didn't work out so well for me. So after countless amounts of trips golfing and spending the resources from the first sale, it was time to get back in the saddle. So I think the one thing the golf course taught me a lot about was the fact that perseverance and energy and thinking outside the box all come at a certain time and place for all of us. So again, it's a real honor to be here. And I think that, yeah, a little bit about my background in terms of just history. I've probably lived 25% of my life outside the USA. I know Helena's lived in Mexico. I've lived in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Paris and Prague for many years, and all engaged in international business. And it's just been a real pleasure, I think, to learn about all the multiculturalism there is in both shipping and socioeconomic and economy. And I think it's the big melting pot, you know, that we all live in, especially those of us close and part of New York City, really get the vibrancy of how we are together, right, as a family. And I think coming out of post-COVID, you know, I kind of conceptualized this idea with Helena because I really wanted to give the business community some of the background that I had that makes me successful. And I think this is a blueprint that you can use. And I've tried to be really focused today in taking a lot of the comments that Helena had secured from you pre-meeting. And I've actually incorporated some of your own businesses such as property and casualty insurance, daycare center issues. And I've actually incorporated them in a way that you can take home today and use some of my strategies tomorrow when you wake up and start your post-COVID-19 marketing. So I think with that said, I would like to begin the program. There's one other thing. So, I talk a lot about social media, right? And as a social media expert, I do have a micro niche kind of fit in terms of where I am social media wise. Yeah, you'll find me a little bit on Facebook and certainly not Instagram and YouTube. I do have some shows there, but I was fortunate to be nominated one of 500 out of 200 million LinkedIn users to broadcast live, right? Which means I can go on LinkedIn and I can go live as a TV show and basically talk about the issues of the day. For example, tomorrow I'm talking about the safety of imported food from China and India, as we start to come out of post-COVID. So there's a lot of interesting tools that I've learned from LinkedIn as a power user that I want to share with you today. So my show is called, and you guys are going to kind of laugh at this, but so I'm 59. So my show is called OK Boomer Live TV. So yeah, OK Boomer is kind of a parody on the fact that I'm a boomer working in a millennial and kind of Gen X type world. So I feel really privileged to be here because my clients range from 20 something to 70 something, and it's really important, I think, as business people that we not only understand the pain points of each other in terms of our business needs and their business needs, but what we have to offer, and we really need to listen to what their needs are before we kind of self-fulfill or self-service our own mechanisms for money and for appointments and for cold call. We really have to give, well, actually, forgive me, I need to be authentic. Cold calling is dead, and we're going to talk about why that is in the case in a second here. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I think that's a great intro to our discussion. You see my great container ship being eaten by an octopus. And now
And
we will.
Steve, can I say something really quick? Just a reminder that to all the attendees that the chat, of course, is open, but we will be taking questions at the end. And if you want to send in your questions, please do so through the Q&A feature. Thank you.
Yes, and please, guys, I specifically work with Helena. This is our third or fourth session together. She's one of the best moderators that I've run across, and I enjoy her program so much. And
you're so kind. Thank you. He should be my agent.
No, you should be my agent because we always want to allow. There's nothing more important than answering some of your questions at the end. So let's try to leave about 12, 15 minutes, and I've got a lot of material to cover, but the one nice saving grace is that I've allowed Helena to, I've authorized her to release this deck, I guess to anyone that wants it, and certainly the recording, I guess, as part of the library system will be available. And Helena can explain that towards the end of the program. So yeah, you know what, let's kick off the program, because now I'm kind of really energized because I tell you guys, I've been through the ringer, right? I have been with LinkedIn for about, let's see, since 2007, I want to say 13, 14 years. And I've paid, a LinkedIn professional 10,000 here, 5,000 here, teach me this, do this for me, set up my profile, set up my tagline, my headline on my profile. And, so I spent, basically $20,000, $30,000 probably in the last 15 years on LinkedIn services, where I trusted somebody to help me. And, I probably did get that money back in return in terms of new contacts and connections. But I slowly began to learn that there's nothing really that anyone can do for you that you can't do for yourself. And there are a lot of really interesting tricks and tips. Try saying that 3 times fast. So listen, here's the thing. Post-COVID-19, I think that this is one of the most beautiful, rarest moments in history. And I don't mean to belittle the fact that we're coming off of so much hardship and illness and troubles. And just fatalities nationwide have been unprecedented. But on the other hand, this is almost like getting ready to buy a stock in after the Great Depression. It would be almost like buying, Microsoft at $3 and watching it, zoom up. I believe that doing business in the current post-COVID era, where we are right now, is an incredible opportunity for you to kickstart and use that as a motivating factor. Now, I did a video a couple of weeks ago, and it was talking about what I would do with my $1,200 stipend, the PPP thing that the government gave, right, to each family. And I made kind of I didn't mean to make a flip comment about it, but I said, of course I'd spend it on food, housing, healthcare, whatever I need to. But I really would spend it on like a virtual assistant or someone to help me, publicist, right? Because I think that everyone's so afraid right now, the early bird gets the worm, right? So I think that the people that go out there now and find their way and find the mark are going to be so much ahead of the game, right? There's a company I follow, and their logo is like this little red triangle, and all their competitors are these green triangles. And the red triangle is just a little bit ahead of the green ones, right? So I want you guys to be that red triangle. I want you guys to kind of take off and pardon the pun, zoom with the flow here. And so I think that you have to kind of start by thinking, okay, and this is what I do. I've really enjoyed working from home. I put on a suit, sometimes a tie, a jacket, lapel pin. I try to present myself well. I try to feel good. And I try to understand that the old paradigm, right, that existed in terms of flying out to Memphis to meet a client, it doesn't really exist anymore. So in a lot of ways, what COVID-19 has done is it's even the playing field for a lot of us entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and those of us that want to really, get started and find a niche business. And so I think it's just remarkable that we can use technology and tools. To be honest with you, it's like, how did the saying go? Well, Helena and I were talking about black and white TV, right? I was 9 years old when the moon landing came, and it was basically a click and play TV, and you got a basic thing, right? And so I kind of look at like LinkedIn and for example, maybe Google, right, as those basics, right? Those are my black and white TVs. It just so happens that I was able to put some colorization to them. So I think that when we start to kind of look through the presentation for today, we start to look and put some strategy towards what's really important and who's teaching you or telling you about how these mechanisms work. Now, one of the things I wanted to do is, this is really a funny story, guys. I had a company present to me a couple of weeks ago about, they said, hey, well, $3,000 a month, we'll get you every follower, every contact you want on LinkedIn. We'll write you content. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll help you direct your videos, because I'm a big believer in video, right? I love that. And so I said, what's on your screen now is something called the social selling index. And it's actually ranked by LinkedIn, right? And so like anything, plus 50, 60 is like excellent, right? So I'm an 85, right? And the people that were trying to sell me, I said, okay, hey, what's your SSI, right? I know the lingo, right? And they said, oh, it's, 73. And so, it's basically like, it'd be like a grad student, trying to teach, Einstein, E = MC squared, right? So, it's one of those things where, I don't just walk the talk, I talk the walk, and however that goes. And, I let my, my social skills, selling skill, acumen, kind of speak for itself. So having an 85 is pretty prolific, right? And I want to make sure that, you guys don't think, well, there's just a guy that uses LinkedIn talking to us. Well, I think it's a little bit more than that, right? So I just want you guys to all feel comfortable. So if we go back into kind of looking at our program, and we look at the headlines, right? So when I talk about LinkedIn, we all know LinkedIn as a B2B, and not really a B2C, but business to business marketing tool, right? So it's like you go into LinkedIn and yeah, you know what? I'm a really big believer in using some live stuff. So I think you guys will like this. So when you look at the headlines, excuse me, I thought I was logged in. We'll just do a quick thing here. You always got to have multi-factor authentication here. 535 7. Okay, with that. And let's take a look at the issue of headlines and how they come into play. So if I pull up my profile, I always play with this. So this is kind of the headline here. Hire world's leading expert free. Turn 3 years of global logistics spend into cash. No cure, no pay. And then a little social media proof, LinkedIn Live TV, which is, again, a creative idea I had. The URL was available. I don't work for LinkedIn, but LinkedIn Live.tv actually links to my television show. So why not, right? Put it right in the headline. So that's the headline. And I think that it's just so important that when prospects or potential clients look at you, they look at that headline before they decide whether to do business with you. And so, I think that there's a lot of boring headlines, like, I don't know, social media expert or influencer or inbound sales leader or property insurance expert or I think one of the attendees today is involved in printing of catalogs, catalog design and development expert. Those are all kind of, I'll say a little bit blah, right? Your headline kind of has to make you look like a boss, right? And I once had a mentor that said to me, I was in sales, if you can't tell, but somebody said to me, when I was afraid to ask the client for business, but my mentor said, what's the worst that could happen? And I said, well, I didn't know how to answer it. And he said, you're not going to die. You're not going to get sick. You're not going to get hurt. They're not going to throw you off the bridge. So I think that I learned, in sitting in front of a mirror, hey, I'm Steve Ferreira from so-and-so. And, I've showed you how we have the 3 features and benefits. And I've agreed with you that I've met I've solved your problem. Could I have your order today? You have to shut up and wait for them to respond. So that was a real challenge for me to kind of get through that, in person, in these in-person type sales calls. But by having, the great thing about the internet and LinkedIn is you can make yourself look very important and very big and very powerful. You have to present it well. But you have to find a client problem or what you want to do for your business and figure out how you're going to solve that problem before you write your headline. So for example, that property insurance expert as a blah type headline, I think this looks good. The hidden costs of property and casualty insurance for CFOs. Or maybe I wrote that wrong. I solve the problem of hidden costs of property and casualty insurance for C-level executives. Geez, that sounds like a Rolex to me, or a Tiffany bracelet. It sounds really good, right? So I think that the headline is an important and vital part of how we're going to present ourselves. Now, finding the right person, again, if I had a FAQ of everything about LinkedIn, it's like, well, how do you find the right person? Well, finding the right person is not always who you think about, right? I mean, I'm involved in international logistics. So there's titles of potential prospects called logistics managers or VPs of logistics. Logistics. It sounds good, right? So you would think, okay, Steve's target client is logistics manager, logistics director. Maybe not so. It's maybe not so simple as that. So for example, an event planner, if you're an event planner, I don't think you should just contact a person that handles event planning at your target client, because obviously they have their mind kind of set in a certain type of a mannerism, in terms of what they expect. the walk and talk of who they deal with. They may even have some pet favorite contractors that they deal with. So I kind of believe that you need to look at multiple people when you decide, after you decide what the problem is that you want to solve. So in this case, maybe, and I think I spelled it wrong, the CFO, right? Well, he's got an angle for saving money. So if you're an event planner and you're running an event planning business and you just cater to the event planning liaison, but you disregard the CFO, it's kind of a disconnect, right? Because at some point, money's going to come into play. What about the merchandisers at a company? The merchandisers that bring in the sweaters, the shirts, the toys, the electronics. Oh, they're very creative, right? They know what's moving. They may have themes and ideas that they could give you as an event planner. The salespeople, hey, there's VP of sales. He or she know what their promos are going to be, and that's certainly another piece of information that you can have. The VP and directors, they're always a safe space to start, but I'm a firm believer that it's important to work from the top down and also build a volunteer army, so to speak, from the bottom up, because eventually everyone's going to end up working together in some kind of multidisciplinary team, depending on the size of the project. So again, I look at that as a little bit of just a quick overview that you really have to kind of think about who the right audience is and the contact is. So I think that if we look at continuing on this particular side of the journey, we look at, we're going to start to look at 3 ways to get to, and Bill Smith is a real person. Bill, if you're out there, I don't know you, but it sounded good to use you. So I wanted to talk to you guys about something really, really interesting, right? Because I know money is tight, right? So I subscribe personally to what I call LinkedIn Navigator, which is a premium version of LinkedIn. And there's like LinkedIn Standard. And I think there's a LinkedIn edition for human resource or recruiters, right? So we really disregard that edition. But LinkedIn Premium or Navigator is a pretty good cost out of your budget, right? So, LinkedIn normal is okay. It's good. I love LinkedIn, but there are some really fun ways to get LinkedIn results just by using Google. It's amazing. So let's take this. I've already written these queries for you, and you can take these and you can basically substitute. But you can see here, it's kind of a complex Boolean query, I call it. And I could actually Google one of these lines here. This is actually a Google query, right? And, I believe in doing everything live. I'm not going to BS and tell you something that I don't believe in. So, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm going to go in and put that query in here. And so my query was for partnerships in event planning in Madison Square Garden. So you can see here, I've got all the profiles of everyone possible just in Google. I didn't pay a single dime to get this resource. So I already have all the profiles here, and you can see up here, it is a little quirky, right? Because you have here 8,340 results. Certainly when you get to page 7 and 8, some of the relevancy of the lookups are going to be less. But it all is based on the query, right? You can see here, I've got Madison Square with the word Bill Smith. I've got partnerships. I've got event planning, right? So if I knew that Bill worked at Madison Square Garden, and I wanted to find out see his LinkedIn profile, and I didn't have the LinkedIn in full version, or I wasn't fluent in the free version, you could just use queries like this. So let's just try this one with Bill. I think I tried this one before we came on, so hopefully these all work real well. But there you go. So you see Bill Smith, the first one, and you can click on it, and it'll bring you right to his profile. I think this is just amazing stuff. When I saw this, it's like, where do I learn more? And so I hope it's interesting to you too. So let me just kind of gloss over this. This is 3 ways to get to Bill Smith using Google. even though it's LinkedIn and Google are two different companies. That's amazing, right? Because it's all indexed. So I just think that that's one of the most amazing things. Now, let me show you a little bit within LinkedIn, the same kind of hierarchy as it relates to Madison Square Garden and event planning. And I think this will make a little bit more sense when you see just how we drill down using LinkedIn. So if you were on LinkedIn and you have this query up here, you can see I've typed in Madison Square Garden and Greater New York City area and event planning. Now this is the premium version of LinkedIn. So I don't know how much it costs, but it's under $1,000 a year. But one of the great things about it is it gives you a lot of statistics and a lot of filters. And filters are really important to help quickly narrow down your target market, which is something I love to do. But this quick query tells me that there's 3,000 results. But one of the greatest things that I love is 113 people in that category changed jobs within 90 days. Now, I can't begin to tell you, I think one of the best targets, no matter what the title is if you change jobs in 90 days and I'm a vendor, you're going to be a lot more open to me to hearing my story. If you've only been in your new job 90 days, you have no history. You may have come from the company, but you're in a new role, right? So if I sell you on marketing services or office supplies, right? You're going to be probably hearing my pitch for the first time, not for the 10th time. So I've got a real good chance to make an impression. So LinkedIn helps you kind of understand the types of people in the category that you're looking for who have started a new job or a new role. The other thing that I love, and I think you guys will understand this as we go through our program, is that the number of times, the amount of posts, meaning content that have been written within this user group. So within this user group up here, Madison Square Garden, New York City, and event planning, there's been 400 posts. There's a lot of posts, and it's really important to understand the gist of the posts so you can start to see these people's problems and issues. The other thing that's really helpful is 177 of these people have some common experience with you. What does that mean? That means that they may be connected to somebody you know, somebody in your second and third degree of connection, kind of like the Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separation type thing. Or they could be in the same college, right? They could have been in the same high school, or they could have been at a former employer. So it's always good, right? Because you can always say in an email, "Hey, John, it's nice to meet you. We don't know each other, but we work together at Citibank," and so on and so forth. So this is that initial query, and you can see 3,000 results. If we go down to the next query on the same exact company, Madison Square Garden, but now we say we add an extra Boolean. When I say Boolean, it's just a query where we use a descriptive word, not. So I want all the people in event planning, but I don't want to see anyone in sales, right? So voila, look what's happened. We go from 3,000 to 1,000 people, and 40 have changed jobs, 109 have posted. So it gives you a much workable number the more you define the type of person you want or don't want. I mean, I could have easily put in here, not human resources, or I could have said not Ferreira, so you don't want to bring up anyone with my name as an example. So there's a lot of ways that you can use those queries intuitively. Now, again, I asked you before, I mentioned, there's a million different ways to get to Bill Smith, right? And the reality is that there's Bill Smith, and he is the VP of Marketing Partnerships, right? So I think you'll recall in that query I had in Google, Bill Smith partnerships or partnerships at Madison Square Garden, and you would have found Bill Smith's profile through Google as easily as you would through my own natural search in putting together this exercise for you. So those are kind of my 3 ways to get to Bill Smith. Now, I do want to show you real quick that those are all examples from Google and the paid version of LinkedIn. What you're looking at now on the screen is the free version. So I basically put in the same kind of query, Madison Square Garden, planning, New York City, And I got about the same amount of results, but one of the downsides of just the free issue, the free version, and again, it's just like anything else, right? It's there's a financial gate, right, that separates you from getting more searches. So as you move up into the quality of LinkedIn premium editions, you get more filters, right? So this one, there's no way to really filter by seniority, by VP, by number of years at the location, whether they changed jobs, whether they posted. It's kind of your plain vanilla type output. So you're getting kind of a similar result from the plain version of LinkedIn as you would say from the Google queries that I've taught you guys how to use. So as we move forward, I'll try to accelerate because I know we have a lot to cover. So using the Google can sharpen our results, obviously, with the seniority. I'm a real big believer in seniority. I think it's important to go in and use a query like this where you actually can put in a major title, right? Like with a vice president, and I'll just experience that one last time for you. And this will help you see, the power of, using a seniority type title. And here you can see all the people in Madison Square Garden that fit the criteria with the title vice president. So it's a really slick way to get some great results that you can do from your kitchen or your home office. And I love it so much, and I hope you do too. I'm interested to hear your comments on this strategy. So let me move on, and actually there's some parts of this where I'll be able to give you some self-direction. But I think, I want to talk about the difference between following somebody on LinkedIn and connecting with you. I think those guys that charge me $20,000, they think that it's great to send, LinkedIn has a feature called InMail where you can send a email, within the LinkedIn system, and it stays only in LinkedIn. And so people say, these experts will say, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread because, you're sending an email directly within LinkedIn. There's no way that it's going to go into spam. It's going to go right to the person's mailbox. The problem is that a lot of decision makers don't check their LinkedIn consistently. Like, I'm on it 7-8 times a day because I just have tons of activity. But it's sort of like sending an InMail or a LinkedIn message directly, meaning an equivalent of an email. I'm not talking about a connection request or asking somebody or wanting to follow someone's content like you would follow them in Facebook. Following and connecting, completely different than sending an internal email. But I don't like the internal email system because it's like your Google inbox after a while, right? I mean, raise your hand. How many of us have like 600 messages and, we can't tell one title or subject from the rest, right? So what do? Click, wholesale, delete all. So it's kind of like that. But I think that the job here that we want to do is that we're humans, right? So humans write things, we produce visual stories, we're experts, we have problems, and we want to find other humans in our space that help us to solve the problem. So how do we do that? Outside of what experts would say, well, use the LinkedIn email because it's definitely a way to get the message. Well, I've sent thousands of LinkedIn emails within LinkedIn, and personally, it doesn't work for me. But there are a lot of things that really do work for me, and I'm going to show you probably one of my new favorites. And I learn every day, right? So it took me a long time to kind of figure this one out. But there is a way in LinkedIn where you can connect with somebody, which means that they'll immediately be in your network, or you can follow somebody. And to follow somebody basically means that you'll start seeing their content, you'll start seeing what they do, but it's a little less formal than a full-blown connection request. So it's kind of like dating, right? I guess, you'd say, you say to a girl, a connection request would be, there's a dance Friday night at 8 o'clock, would you like to go with me, right? That's a connection request. And a follow would be, I really like dancing. Do you like dancing? And you kind of play into each other's, strengths or what areas of interest. So what I do is I follow a lot of thought leaders, like I do some work with CNBC and USA Today and the media. So, I'll follow certain reporters and they'll see that I'm following them. And eventually they'll ask me to connect. So it's far better in a position of strength, in my personal opinion, when you can when you can follow somebody and then turn the tables and have them reach out to you because they like your content, or they've seen you, or you write something really sweet and spiffy about something that they wrote. So there's a lot more value and power, in my humble opinion, to following someone as opposed to just flat out connecting with somebody. But with that said, if you do end up wanting to connect with somebody, pardon me, you can customize the invitation. There's a way to connect. And you can see here that I X'd out this send now, right? I don't think you should ever send a connection request, meaning you want them to be in your network, without some kind of written invitation. The reason why is that 70% of customized invitations, maybe that 70% is too high, but you have a far better chance of the client or the person accepting your invitation if there's some strategy, tie-in, content, funny story, antidote in this particular message box. So it's really important to customize the invitation. And what does that mean to do that? I've provided a little bit of guidance for you on customization. Some of you may feel that this is a little over the top. I don't personally, but here's some good examples that would go in that box. I'll just read like the first one or two. This would be a connection request. Hey, John, while we've never met, I post content about issues facing the property and casualty insurance business post-COVID. If interested, accept, and you'll see posts on your feed. If not, banish me to insurance hell. You know, again, my strategy is a little bit over the top, maybe, but what's the worst that can happen? The guy gets a good laugh and yeah, oh, okay, this guy's got a good sense of humor, so he connects. Somebody wrote to me on the Helena's pre-work that they were involved in property and casualty insurance. So that one's kind of for you. Another person wrote about fine arts and I think art galleries in post-COVID. And I thought this was a great idea as a connection request if you're that person. Hi, Sharon, I reviewed your profile, and as someone like myself with a strong interest in the arts, I'd be honored to be part of your network and share creative ways to market fine art. In fact, I wrote a post on some new concepts I thought you'd be interested in. You can view it here. The Deal of the Art. I just kind of played off of Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. And then, I just made up an imaginary, URL where maybe you posted something on your blog about fine art, right? And so you've given the client something of value. You directed them. It's like, you ever see these kind of schlocky websites? My 3 best tips on deer hunting, right? Free. Or 3 best sports tips on Sunday football game, free, So it's kind of like an in-your-face type deal. And I just think you really have to have something tangible when you reach out to the marketplace. And, so I think that when you start to look at the aspects of connecting, right, it's a natural lead in to start thinking about emailing, right? And I think that emailing is probably the other part of LinkedIn, which you can do on your own. Now, I think that one of the cool things about finding emails is I do have a contractor that I pay to help me find emails, but this one's one of my favorites, and I think you guys can use this. There's a way to use a query, just like I did in LinkedIn. And let me just grab this query. So this is me, Steve Ferreira. So let's say you didn't know me, but you knew my company. Oops, this email, you don't want that. You knew my company name. So you can go with a query like this, and I think this will blow you guys away. So I put this query in here, Ferreira in oceanaudit.com, and file type PDF or file type XLS, or I could even put, file type TYPE. Oops, I am not doing well today on that. Doc. So I've got a PDF, an XLS, and a doc. And when not a lot of matches, but there is I won't take the time to open this up because this is a little slow, but I was an expert witness at a testimony on behalf of a plaintiff. And in this particular testimony is my email, my phone number, and my address. So you can actually click on this and find my email as it's actually hidden in a PDF. Amazing stuff, right? I think it's really cool. So you could do that for anybody in the world. And it's especially good. You know how sometimes like I have a few clients or contacts at Ford Motor Company in Michigan, and Ford is a great firm, right? But they're notorious for using really funky uh, naming conventions, like, it might be S Ferreira 23, where it's really hard to guess the number. This is particularly helpful when you're working with companies that have an unusual naming convention. One of the things that I love about emails is that there are ways to improve them, to pass spam filters and to enhance your ability to get the email to the right person at the right time. And what do I mean by that? Well, here we have a simple email. I'm going to show you a couple different simple emails here that I wrote. And you can see here, this is an email to a system that grades my email. It's a free system. And I'm going to show you exactly what's happening here. So the email is kind of really schlocky marketing shtick, right? Steve, this is really hot. That's the title. That's the subject line. Hey, Steve, I found a way to save you money on your property insurance. Call me for saving big bucks. Right? Really, I mean, who would send that, right? That's just really, in my opinion, not a very well written email. And it's really hokey. So if you take a look at the score, we can actually score that email in terms of how, before your recipient sees it, what's the score and how does it look? Now, again, I'm sending it from myself to myself, so there are some variables here, but this is a tool called mailtester.com, mail-tester.com, and it graded this email as an 8.9 out of 10. But you can see here, I got some brownie points taken away at the bottom here, 0.6 points, probably because it was spammy, right? And it wasn't really kind of like, it was like, save big bucks, get big refunds. It's like, who wants to have that kind of thing? That goes right to spam. But this case, the score was 8.9, which is actually a very legitimate score. But I'd like to show you how I improved that message and the result inherent on improving the message. So this is the next message. And now the title is, remember what I talked about in LinkedIn, where it's really important to follow somebody and understand what they write, what their content is? Well, this one says, Steve, I wrote the follow-up to your original idea. It's a very kind of provocative subject. It doesn't really tell much, but yeah, it gives me kind of the cachet to open it, right? Wouldn't you agree? And look at the email. Hi, Steve. Being in the same space as you, I found your post on a new approach to insurance post-COVID-19 fascinating, as I've been working on a follow-up to your original content. No pressure, not selling anything. Would you be open to a phone call to discuss? And the results are that this is the same, basically the same email, just kind of reformatted. And look at that. Wow, perfect. 9.5. So just by taking time to be a little bit more, you see here in the second one, this is a grading criteria for spamminess. Spam assassin likes you. I got a perfect grade of a check mark. So just by enhancing my email into a solution rather than selling pitch, I've enhanced myself. Just a few more here, and I think we're going to open up to questions. I think that back to the deck. Sorry, it's just it's so hard to keep everything going here. So I talked about the subject lines, right? So it's really important, I think, to have very powerful subject lines. These are actually the openers to your message. These are what's going to grab your attention and the client's attention. I know there's a woman out there that talks about, she's one of Helena's customers or clients at the New York Library. I think she has a website on professional Indian women and recruiting them. Here's one here, a subject line: Indian women are powerful. What a great subject line. That would get my attention. Or an unusual idea to increase revenue. What Del Monte has done post-COVID could be improved. So you can actually be provocative. You can actually say to a client, hey, your website stinks. It took me 6.3 seconds to search for a tracking number or whatever it was, to order a dress. And so there's so many ideas where you can actually, use subject lines to be provocative and to take advantage. So one of the things I did in terms of just kind of helping you guys out was I did forget one last thing, and then we'll kind of move forward. But there is I think it was hidden here. There is something else called a mail tester, and it's actually one of my second or third favorite tools. But it's a way to actually test the ability. For some reason, it's not coming up. You can actually put an email. Oh, here we go. Hopefully, it'll populate. There you go. I love it. So I just took a name here, Pierre Latoyex of.
And it's basically I left a whole series of emails that I would like the team, the folks to have. I left about 7 or 8 samples. For example, I know somebody was involved in the commercial real estate market. So this is a really important part of my presentation, is writing an email. So here's the subject: CFO Playbook Post-COVID. I love the title of this. It appeals directly to a CFO. Hey, Bob, lots happening in the repurposing of commercial real estate markets. Many CFOs are unaware of the new tax credits that are less obvious. Envision getting a cheat sheet with a playbook that helps you to manage them. Sorry, I spelled it wrong. Would you be open to learning more? Awaiting your positive reply, or I'm doomed to the trash bin. Again, they don't all come across as like, schlocky and frivolous, but I think in this day and age, these are the kind of things that get your attention. One person is involved in catalog production. I like this one a lot. 25% savings for post-COVID production. John just helped competitor name lower their in-house catalog production by 25% using 3 simple ideas I share with the VP of design. Glad to share the same with you. I see you nodding your head. Okay, hit me back and they are yours. So there's about 10 samples that everyone in the group will have. And again, feel free to normalize them or standardize them as you wish. So with that said, I want to thank you for the time and attention. I'm sorry for the technical glitch. If there's any questions, I'll stay as long as it takes.
You're so kind, Steve. No. It's all good. We have a lovely and super kind and understanding audience, and they just, send their comments. Not to worry, it's technology. No problem. You have been great. So no. We are just in awe as to everything that you have shared. And I also understand that we're coming up to 7 p.m. and we definitely want to finish on time, but given that we had a few minutes of technical difficulties, I am happy also to stay a little bit longer if any of you want to stay and have questions. So if you want to send us your questions on the Q&A or on the, I see you, most of you, here on the chat. So let's see, Brian said,
I'll stay as long as it takes.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm happy. I'm right there as well. So whoever wants to stay for a little bit longer, you're welcome to do so. Okay, so the first one is from Brian, and he said, Steve, could you provide a list of the search terms you use on Google? So take it away. I think those are on your slides, right?
Brian, it's a great question. There's also some very provocative videos, self-help videos on YouTube. If you just do a search on YouTube, Boolean, B-O-O-L-E-A-N, search terms for LinkedIn. There are a couple of cheat sheets out there. I've given you some of the basics, but there are some good resources for that.
Awesome. Thank you. And then, the chat is super, super long by now, but somebody earlier had said that they needed an example, if I remember correctly. Whoever that was, do you mind typing that in again so that we can further understand what example you needed so that Steve can give it to you, please?
Glad to help. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, everyone is saying, Steve, you're so generous. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Great presentation.
Except for the
you
technical
rock.
glitch. Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Hey, it happens. No problem. Okay. So, let's say, Margie, she's asking, can you type the spelling of the word Boolean, B-O-O-L-E-A-N. There you go.
I think that's it, right? Boolean query.
Right, exactly. And okay, Jessica saying, thank you guys so much. My pleasure. Thanks, Steve, for being so awesome. Okay, Anne says, thank you all for the great ideas. Looking forward to receiving the slides. Of course, you will all receive this. And also, if I could just ask you an enormous favor, you are also going to receive a link to get us some feedback. So we would love, love, love to get your feedback. What we did well, what could be improved, other speakers that you would like us to bring for you. And also, just to let you know, next Monday at 2 p.m., we are having a town hall style meeting so that you can tell us what you want to learn going forward, because obviously we are in unprecedented times. So if there's anything that your business needs, we want to hear about that, and we want to bring you the expert to teach you that. So I will include that link in there as well for all of you guys. And Josh says, oh, thank you. Of course, on the contrary, so glad to see you here, Josh. Let's see. Okay. Marie says, Steve, can I reach out to you regarding your company? I'm a small business trying to pilot regarding shipping to Brazil.
Sure. Just contact me on LinkedIn.
All right. Meditation Nation. Oh, hi. She says, thank you so much, Steve. Namaste. And then Brian also asks, how much time do you spend finding new clients versus serving your current clients?
I think the answer should be, how much time do I do the social media and television versus my day job? No, I'll tell you, I think here's the thing. It's a really interesting question, Brian. I appreciate it so much. There's a lot of schlocky websites out there. It'll be like, fire up your client marketing tool whenever you need clients. But the way that I think about it, my client list is so profound now and so deep that I feel that I have such a great system and pipeline, so that if I ever anticipate a problem, like COVID wasn't anticipated, but I was fortunate enough to have so much depth in LinkedIn that it's easy for me to say, okay, I need 8 clients this month to market to. So, I just hit a button and I kind of have it scientifically planned. But I would say I spend about at least, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say an hour a day, kind of combing through profiles and making sure there's the right fit. And most importantly, that I've understood what their pain points are by researching that industry, right? You won't get that from the profile, but if somebody's in casualty insurance or in construction, you can actually do a lot of corollary research to find out what the pain points are in that industry. So that's important. Good question.
Awesome. Okay. LaSonia says, hashtag awesome. So that's great. And then we have a question from Cartier who says, I saw the Boolean search results were limited in the standard LinkedIn version, but as far as following emails and other things discussed, are there any differences in SSI versus standard LinkedIn?
The SSI is your own personal selling index or social selling index, and that's actually found in the paid version of LinkedIn. So you don't get a lot of the kind of the analytics and the bells and whistles of how well you're doing. But the thing about it is, and again, I mean this in all the positive ways with peace and love, is that I started out with the standard edition before I moved up to the premium one. And I think that between the standard edition and using Google, as I've kind of instructed tonight, it's a winning combination. And again, some of you are starting brand new businesses. Some of you are trying to find ways to fill in the gaps. Some of you are maybe going through the same fears that I had in terms of reaching out and trying to find that first customer. But I think that the basic edition and Google can give you everything you need. But certainly, as you start to grow the business and you have a few extra $100, $1,000 here or there, you can move up to the premium edition, and through techniques like Helena has in the library forum, where people like myself come in and provide service. I think there's enough kind of free help out there, so you don't really need to go out and buy something really expensive.
Right. Okay. So here's another question. But as I'm seeing this, I still see your screen, and I think it would be better if you could please stop sharing so that we can see you as you're answering this. That would be much better.
Sure.
All right.
So
Let's see, no problem. So Anne is saying finding pain points in industries is a good topic. How do you research pain points?
Well, I think pain points are, next to my spouse and my family and my kids, I think finding pain points is one of my joys in life. I think that you can't solve something or make money unless you find what the problem is. And so I really believe it comes down to the basic fundamentals of whatever industry you're in, whether you're a travel agent, whether you're a shoe shiner, whether you're a seamstress. There's always going to be something that a company or consumer has that troubles them. And if you find the solution, it's like almost finding your own little lottery ticket. I'll make a small analogy. Like I love to dabble around with investments in mutual funds. And somebody presented to me, a salesman, he said, this particular mutual fund, it's like having your own little mini hedge fund. And a hedge fund, for those that don't know, right, it's a stock fund that has a lot of growth, but it has a lot of defensive positions in it. And when he used the word having your own mini hedge fund, it resonated with me. So you need to find the right words and the right solutions in order to look at your market. So whatever industry you're in, whether it's selling real estate or selling office supplies, every single consumer or company that is on your target list has a problem. And by looking at LinkedIn, by looking at the content, by going into LinkedIn has a great feature called groups, right? So there's a group on procurement, there's a group on accounts payable, there's a group on human resources. And by getting into these groups, all of a sudden you start to see the most common problems. So guess what, guys? You can talk the language of your client as opposed to talking the language that you want to talk. And as soon as you make that conversion, your sales will go through the roof.
Awesome. So we have another question here from Lenore. She says, to find New York City collectors who might like our art to approach by snail mail, I need to find people with online images of their homes, a la Architectural Digest, and also need to find their home addresses. Any advice about search terms?
I think that if you're looking for people that have pictures of fine art or the homes, I would say, Greater New York City Artist Bureau, Greater New York City Art Collection, Public Art Collection, public personal artworks held by individual consumers. You're going to have some hits, and if you use some of those terms in LinkedIn, you're going to get gallery owners and people that are in real estate that know personal collectors and that are in that genre or that industry. I can't work the problem so quickly in 30 seconds, but I hope that's a helpful way.
Awesome. Also, somebody else just said that they had to leave and they were wondering if you would still get the information about these questions if there's a way. So yes, just to let you know, we're still recording and we will put everything in the recording up online so you will see this. And then, oh, Anne says thank you. And then Wei Zhen says, thank you NYPL, Elena and Steve for this awesome learning event. Special thank you, Steve, for sharing your insight of digital effective marketing. Best to you. Well, thank you. Thank you to all. Any other questions? I don't see any more in the chat. And I don't see any more in the Q&A. So if you want to submit a question, okay, Joy says, hi, Steve, this is so insightful. You have to be solving people's pain to make money. Yeah, I've heard that the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the check.
I just think it really comes down to this, is that, you have to think about what's on the other end of the equation, right? You're sitting there typing an email to Joe Smith at your target company. Joe probably gets 100 emails a day, and the subject line, if you make that subject line provocative and interesting and somehow connected to the problem, there's so many different ways to do it, and it doesn't even have to be, but you've got 15 seconds of Joe's time. And so what I would like to just say in closing is that I've given you some fundamental building blocks in terms of how to take the next step. But one of the most important parts is that, remember, you might have caught Joe on a bad day. He might have had 600 emails and he deleted yours. Well, there's something in the industry, and we can get into this perhaps if I'm invited back, something called drip campaigns, right? Where you would have the ability to say, okay, I want the message to go to Joe today, and then 6 days from now, another message, and then 6 days from now, a very similar but different message. And it's all unique messaging, and it's very easy and very cost friendly to set up this. And when you do this drip campaign, you start to put your marketing on what I like to call as autopilot. And you can kind of then sit back, and then when these clients start rolling in and asking for meetings, you can take the meeting. And like Helena said so succinctly when she advertised the seminar, you don't have to make these phone calls, smile and dial. I have not made a outbound phone call, cold call in years. Ever since I discovered the power of this hybrid combination that I've talked to you about, I get through. Now, is it always, beautiful smelling roses? No, of course not. You're going to get a lot of rejection, but it doesn't matter. If you reach out to 100 and 6 reply, well, it's 6 more than you had before you had some of the instruction from today. So I really wish you, in my heart, peace and love and richness and success. Post-COVID is the most incredible dynamic opportunity that we as Americans and business people and people that have come to our country looking for personal success for their families from other countries. This is the land of opportunity where we can take anything from a computer and make it happen. So whether you're in landscaping, architecture, house cleaning, personal collections, you're an attorney, you're a student, there are so many different ways to start the protocol to get past COVID-19. And what I wanted to do most of all today is just give you a little bit of a jump and a push so you have a head start as we start to come through the summertime. You've been a great audience. You can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Steve Ferreira, F-E-R-R-E-I-R-A. Helena is going to retain my materials. I encourage you all to download them. And certainly, most of all, I would love for everyone to reach out and please connect with me, and I'll share any experiences offline with you that I can, time permitting. So Helena, on behalf of Ocean Audit, myself, and my TV show, OK Boomer, I want to thank you as the host. And I especially want to thank the library for having me. And I can't say enough about what a great session it was.
I just want to thank you because you have been an awesome guest, and people have been saying that, yes, we would love to have you back here, and they're very grateful for you being here. I mean, you should see all the comments in here. But I also want to say thank you for all of you, for staying here, for your questions, for being so engaged, and for being just such an awesome audience. You all rock, and we are delighted to have you here. And yes, please come back soon, Steve, because we definitely want to learn more from you.
Well,
so we look forward to having you.
We'll be working on part 2 very soon. That's a very motivating thing. Thank you all. Have a very great evening.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.